Okay, so let's get started. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today we will do a deep dive on Builder, the free CLI application and package registry for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. My name is Zuzana. I am a Salesforce Marketing Cloud architect at Deloitte Digital. I am also a Salesforce MVP and the leader of the Poznan Salesforce Marketer Group. And our guest today is Tony Zupancic, my fellow marketing champion and the creator of Builder. Tony, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Tony Zupancic, and I am located in Chicago. I've been in the Marketing Cloud ecosystem for around the last 5 years or so. And I've really taken a shining to developing applications that kind of sit on top of and work with Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And I'm really, really excited that I've been able to develop this tool and share it out with the community as an open source project. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. So before we start with the presentation, I would like to offer you all a chance to win a Salesforce certification voucher. We have multiple vouchers to give away, and all you need to do is follow this link and sign up using the form. I will also post this link for you in the chat later. There will be a lottery at the end of the session, so make sure to stay until the end of the event to find out how to claim your voucher if you're one of the lucky winners. A little bit of housekeeping. This session will be recorded and the recording will be posted to the events page on the Trailblazer community group's website. At the end of the session, there will be a chance to ask Tony questions about the builder. So please post your questions in the chat or ask them directly during the Q&A. Last but not least, remember to sign up for the upcoming meetings organized by the Poznan Salesforce Marketer Group in the coming months. As soon as we have some dates and topics lined up, we will announce them on the Trailblazer community website, and I will also post them on my personal LinkedIn. So here are some links for you to follow the group. So now let's jump into the main topic of today's meeting. Off to you, Tony.
Sounds good. Let me switch over here. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So today we're talking about a CLI tool that I've had the fortunate ability to work on called Builder. As I mentioned, I've been in Salesforce Marketing Cloud for around 5 years. I'm a marketing champion. I am one of the co-founders of How to SFMC and the website admin for that. And I do other various web application development. So what's the inspiration for Builder? With Builder, I've been in the platform for about 5 years. I have jumped from everything from email development to cloud page development and to automation development. One of my biggest hangups with working in the platform has always been that I like to use Sublime Text or VS Code, my personal text editor. And in order for me to do that, I have to copy and paste everything from the text editor into Salesforce Marketing Cloud. That's a lot of steps when you're working rapidly or working on a lot of assets. The other aspect of it is version control. I like to have everything that I'm working on version control. And with working in Marketing Cloud, with that copy and paste workflow, trying to keep everything together and trying to keep everything up to date is a task in and of itself. So that's kind of where the idea for Builder really comes from. I've done a lot of web development and other software development as well. And I really wanted to try and bring the Salesforce Marketing Cloud workflow a little bit closer to that. And that's kind of what Builder is aiming to do. So what is Builder? Builder is an open source command line application. So it's run on your machine locally through the use of your terminal. You can download it through NPM, which I'll go through the steps there in just a minute. At the heart of it, it's a workflow tool. So it's, again, taking that copy and paste mentality from Salesforce Marketing Cloud and your local text editor and completely removing that. You're able to update and create files from your local machine and push and create them into Salesforce Marketing Cloud. The best part about it is that you can bring your own code editor. You can bring your own Git provider. So Builder makes no assumptions about what you like to use. If you have access to your terminal, you can use Builder. If you have GitHub, Bitbucket, AWS Code Commit, you're able to tie directly into your current Git workflow or create a new Git workflow based on whatever you or your organization uses. The other aspect of it is code distribution. So with Builder, the idea behind the code distribution is being able to package your assets and share them out with the community to allow somebody else to take your code that you've put out there into the community and download and install that into their Salesforce Marketing Cloud instance without having to copy and paste every single asset that might be included in that package. Code distribution and packaging is kind of in beta right now. It's on there, it's accessible, but it needs a little bit more testing to officially be part of the package of Builder. So why Builder? Again, it's using your own tools. So I'm comfortable in VS Code. You might be comfortable in another text editor, but it's allowing you to work and do your tasks efficiently in your most comfortable place in your code editor. You don't have to worry about losing your work. So if you've been in the platform for long enough, you have run into either refreshing your browser mid-update or internet crashing and not being able to save your progress in the browser code editor within Marketing Cloud. By doing it locally, you don't have to worry about that. You're not going to, if you lose internet connection, you still have it locally on your machine. You also have a deeper history of that file history. So you can go back more steps without having to try and think about what you've changed and what the initial state of it was. If you've worked in the text editor in Marketing Cloud, it has the autosave, or once you publish your changes, you're not able to really go back. Builder kind of solves for that. And again, it's leveraging Git in any way you want. So if you use Git within your terminal, you can utilize that. If you have a interface that you use Git from, you could also tie directly into that. Does not matter. Builder secure. So all your API credentials, you can use either server to server or the newly released web app configurations for your installed package. All your credentials are managed through your default Windows or Mac credential manager. So there's no API credentials stored locally on files. And in addition to that, they are all encrypted with AES 256 encryption. So it's a fairly high standard of encryption. And then in the future of Builder, it's the ability to package and quickly share and deploy code into any Salesforce Marketing Cloud instance. So how do you get started with Builder? There's only really a few requirements that are needed for Builder to work. Node.js on your machine, and then downloading the Builder package through node package manager, which is the NPM script that's on the screen. There's a full getting started documentation at builder.io that goes through what the installed package needs to look like, and just in-depth details on how to actually get started. So getting configured. So once you have everything downloaded and installed as a global NPM package, getting configured is fairly straightforward. Once you have your installed package configured in Marketing Cloud, then you can run the builder config command, which will guide you through getting set up. So what you're seeing on the screen is the exact process to set up a new configuration. You can configure multiple different Marketing Cloud instances, all under one builder architecture. So if you work at an agency or you work freelance and you have 3 or 4 Marketing Cloud instances that you are working in, you can use Builder with all of them. In addition, you can also target specific business units if you have child business units that you need to have access to. So it really is a flexible way to access your Marketing Cloud instance. So the first thing that you do once you get set up is you want to find your assets. So without having to go into Marketing Cloud to find your folder or asset IDs, Builder has an integrated search. So you're able to really search for folders and assets by name, and you get the entire context of where that folder resides, what the ID is. There's a little bit of different information based on if it's a folder or an asset, and then what part of Marketing Cloud that asset exists in. So once you have your ID and you want to bring that set of assets down, you can then clone. So if you're familiar at all with a Git workflow, we've tried to stay as close to that as possible. So you're able to grab a folder ID and run that through the clone process. And what that's going to do is it's going to grab all of the subfolders and all of the assets that are associated with that root folder. So it'll bring everything down, keeping that folder structure that is in Marketing Cloud. So it's going to be an exact one-to-one match of what's in Marketing Cloud will also get created locally on your machine. So by doing that and bringing those files down, you have more access and more control over what you can do with those files. Since they are on your local machine, your Git workflow has access to them. So if you were to, for example, create a GitHub repository, clone that repository down, within that repository folder, run your clone command, you can then take that folder and push it directly up to Git. So you have that connection created between your Git provider and your Salesforce Marketing Cloud through your local machine. So where does Builder search and what can you clone? So right now it's based on Content Builder, data extensions, and various elements in Automation Studio. Across the board, it's folders and assets. Once you get into Automation Studio, you can get a little bit more granular about what you're bringing down. You're able to bring down SQL queries and script activities independent of your automation. So if you are just archiving or working on SQL queries, you could have your folder of SQL queries, bring that down and push and update those back into Marketing Cloud. Same thing with your server-side JavaScript activities. So updating and creating assets with Builder is actually really, really easy. Once you have those files cloned on your machine, there's 2 different camps that they might fall into. One is fully supported assets and one is partially supported assets. On the screen, you'll see that list of fully supported assets. Those are any kind of assets that will come down as a fully editable text file. So if you think about an HTML email or a code snippet block, you're going to be able to see that content in the actual file itself. Anything that's not in that list falls under the partially supported assets. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring them down as JSON files. And what that means is you're able to still update them and push them into Marketing Cloud and push them into your version control. They just come down as JSON files. Some of those might be getting updates a little bit later as we can, mostly around the content builder assets. But anything that follows that block and slot model for templates and content builder assets, those come down as JSON files. So again, the packaging of your assets, you're able to run the builder package command. And what that's going to do is it's going to set up a project for you, essentially. It's going to grab your content and it's going to find any dependencies. So right now, dependencies are content block by ID and keys, as well as any data extension dependencies. And this list of dependency support will be growing, hopefully in the near future. So what it's going to do is it's going to make a reference link for that dependency. So when it's deployed, it'll make that switch without there being a difference of ID. So for example, if you have a content block by ID, it's going to pick that up, and then it's going to set that reference ID that Builder provides. And then once that asset's created, it's going to swap that reference ID with the new asset ID. So everything should go into the new instance, already tied in together, and ready to go. So this is just kind of a little glimpse into what that package JSON file looks like, and what would be pushed into the new Marketing Cloud instance using this file. So with the package and the package deployment, the future of Builder is really a community-based ecosystem of open source code. So right now, the idea is to be able to take those packaged assets, push them to a public GitHub repository, and then being able to share out that GitHub URL to anybody that uses Builder. And then they're able to take that GitHub URL, install, and then deploy it to their Marketing Cloud instance without ever having to copy and paste the code, without ever actually having to touch that code. So that's kind of what the future of Builder is gearing up for. It's a little bit ways away, but that's really the end goal of what we're doing with Builder as far as that community aspect of it goes. So this is kind of a demo of what's in current development for this. And you can kind of see the submitting your package through the GitHub URL, that package metadata, the code does not, it stays in your GitHub repository, but the package metadata goes into a database, and then that database can be searched, and that's how users can browse packages. So again, this is something that's going to hopefully be coming down the pipeline in the next year or so, that hopefully we can get that out and published for the community. Should be really cool. So that's Builder. This is everywhere that I am accessible. So I'm accessible on How to SFMC, Email Geeks. I'm always on Twitter, and occasionally I do stream on Twitch. So that's the high level overview of Builder. And now I'd love to go into a little bit of a demo as far as working through this. And I guess I'll pause there really quick and see if there's any questions. Chance to compare it with other solutions like dev tools from Accenture, and what are the advantages over time? So there's a few other tools that are indeed similar to Builder. The Accenture dev tools is one of them, and then there's also another VS Code extension that you're able to bring assets to a usable state and update them in Marketing Cloud, all from VS Code. So what I think sets Builder apart from those tools, and the Accenture Dev Tools is a great tool. The reason why I wanted to build and set Builder up the way that it is that Builder is really meant for working in isolated projects rather than your entire instance. From my understanding, that DevTools project that Accenture is doing is really meant to be a full-on migration tool, and it's meant to be across your entire instance. Builder is set up to be a little bit more, in my opinion, flexible, in that you can jump into Builder, jump out of Builder, use it for specific projects, and then jump into Marketing Cloud, use it directly in Marketing Cloud. So that's kind of where I see those differences. And then again, the Builder end goal is that community of being able to use open source projects amongst the Marketing Cloud community. So hopefully getting that to flourish. So hopefully that answered your question there. All right, so let's dive into the demo here. So the first thing that I want to do is show the cloning of assets onto your local machine and being able to update them all from your terminal. So with this, I'll go into the Builder help just to kind of give an idea of everything that Builder can do. So this is literally everything that Builder can do in its current state with the commands that you are provided. So I'm going to look at big status, make sure I'm in the right instance, and I'm going to do a Builder search for a content builder folder, and I'll just look for SSJS LIB. So what that's going to do is it's going to go through, find any folder name that has the search term of SSJS LIB in it, and then I'll be able to grab the folder that I'm looking for and then do Builder clone content builder folder, and then paste in that folder ID. So then what this is going to do is it's going to go through, find all of the folders, and then all of the assets that are underneath this folder ID. And it's going to take those and it's going to create everything exact one-to-one replica locally. So then if I go into any of these files here that are fully supported files, you'll see they're actual text editable files. So anything that's an email, HTML content block, code snippet content block, and script and SQL will come down like that. So that if I wanted to update an asset, for example, I can go in and change, I'll just go in and change this new file 1, and let's just remove these comments just for the ease of the update. So if I go in and I do Builder add, and then it's going to be content builder, SSJS library, new file _1. So I'll add that to a stash. So again, if you're familiar at all with the Git workflow, you add that file to a stash and then you push it to your repository. Builder mirrors that almost identical. So then once it's in the stash, I can do a Builder push, and that's going to update that file in Marketing Cloud. So with that, you're able to make your updates locally, push them into Marketing Cloud, and then once they're tested and you validate your updates work, then you can turn around and push them into your GitHub repository. So then with that, I'm also able to go in and say I want to add a new file. I will rename this to demo file. So right now that demo file does not exist in Marketing Cloud. So then I can do a builder add for content builder, SSJS library for demo file. And what that's going to do is it's going to recognize that in this manifest JSON file that builder uses to keep everything tracked, that asset does not exist in here. So it's going to flag it as a new file. And then I can decide if I want it to be an HTML email, code snippet block, or an HTML block. So I'm just going to choose a code snippet block. So that adds that new file to that stash. I can do a builder push. And then now that file gets created in Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So if I go into Marketing Cloud, I'll let this load. You can see here's my updated file, and then here's my demo file that just got created in that SSJS library folder. So you can create files on the fly, you can update files, and you can add files in bulk to that stash to be pushed in all at once. So if you imagine what the actual workflow for something like that in Marketing Cloud would be, if you had 4 or 5 files that you're jumping between, either content blocks or emails, and you're updating across all of them, you really have to click a lot and navigate into the different areas to be able to make those edits efficiently. And then with Builder, you can do them all in one go in your text editor, and then push them all in bulk. So then with, don't say that. So with Content Builder, it comes down like this. Now I'll go through and demonstrate how it comes down for Automation Studio, since that is a little bit different just by nature of Automation Studio. So again, I'll just do a search. So builder search. So that first flag, that CB or AS flag, is that context flag. So as I'm working in the different areas, I can decide where I want to search or where I want to clone based on that flag. So I'll just bring down a folder and I'll look for builder. So I have my automation here. I'll grab that folder ID, and then it's the same process. So builder clone for Automation Studio folder, throw in that folder ID. And then what this is, was there a question? All right, so what this is going to do is it's going to do a very similar process to the content builder, where it's going to go through, get all of the folders that are associated underneath that folder ID, and then get all the assets within those as well. The difference in Content Builder, in Automation Studio, is if you look at the automation payload that comes down, there's really not a whole lot of detail in the actual API call for the automation. So what we've done is I actually go through each of the steps, each of the activities, and I'll pull those specific activity dependencies right off the bat. So if you have file extracts, filters, file imports, it will go through and pull all of those down. And this is kind of where that supported asset versus partially supported asset can really be shown. With the extracts and these kind of assets, everything comes down as a JSON file. Now, these can be updated and pushed back into Marketing Cloud, just the same way that you would do a content builder asset. You're just looking at them in a JSON format. And then for your queries and your script activities, those come down as text editable files. So you can update those activities directly straight from Builder. So that's how Automation Studio comes down. And as far as the packages go, right now, Automation Studio is not supported in packaging and deploying. That's something that is a future enhancement that I'll be working on, hopefully relatively soon. And then for me, one of the biggest benefits of working in a workflow tool like Builder is I like to have a lot of organization when I do my projects. I do a lot of cloud page development. So when I do my cloud page development, I use code snippet content blocks to modularize and organize all of my code. And then I pull that in with AMP script so that I don't have to continuously refresh that cloud page. I don't have to keep republishing that cloud page. So I like to have a lot of organization with that. So with Builder, what you can do is you can actually initiate a project entirely from your local machine. So with Builder, you can do Builder init and then CB for content builder. And what this is going to do is it's going to ask you for a project name. And it's going to ask you if you need environment variables. So with environment variables, there is a system that is in place where you can, for example, if you have a code resource page or an AMP script block that has, or server-side JavaScript block that has API calls in it, and you have your credentials hard-coded in that block, you're able to actually include those in a file that will get switched when you package your code or when you push it to GitHub. So with this, there is a JSON file that you can just create a standard object. Then your key will get switched with the value that you put in. So if I have 1, 2, 3 in here, anywhere that this exists in my code, it will get updated with the client ID. So I'm going to remove this just for simplicity's sake here. So with Content Builder, I'm able to go in and I'm just going to create a couple of folders. So I'll just do make directory for front end, API, and config. So that's kind of one of my standard folder structures. And then I'll just add API config.html. I'll add config. Actually, let's just do next.html and config /API_config and front end .html. So I'll just start with a couple of simple files. I'll just add some content here just so I have that in there. And then you can add as many folders as you want. You can nest folders. So I'll do a script subfolder. So I have a root folder, I have subfolders and subfolders within that, and then I have all of my files. So it takes me a couple of seconds to get everything situated and set up. So if I do builder add all, so builder add period is going to add everything to the stash. It's going to notice that there's files don't exist. So I'm just going to create them all as code snippet blocks. And now all 4 of those files that I've created are stashed. Then if I do a builder push, those files and folders all get created within Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And now I have an entire project scaffolded for me and ready to go in Marketing Cloud. So if I go into my content, you can see all these files that just got created here. And if I find the folder here, so here's my folder right here. All the folders, all the subfolders all get created with the correct files inside of it. So you can see where a lot of the efficiency comes in at, where if you are scaffolding complex projects managed in Content Builder through code snippet blocks, you can really scaffold and you can really get up and running for a project very quickly. The only thing that you can't create in that kind of a scenario is the code resource pages and cloud pages. They can be cloned down and updated, but they cannot be created, unfortunately. That's just because of a limitation behind Marketing Cloud's APIs. So then, in addition to initiating a full-on content builder project, you're also actually able to initiate and create data extensions locally. So if you don't want to go through the whole process of creating a data extension here, where it's the whole WYSIWYG and you run into some bugs every once in a while where it can't create, Builder lets you create them through the command line. It also helps with building multiple data extensions rapidly as well. So again, it's that initiate command. So builder init, and then it's just --DE for data extension. So I'm going to give it a data extension name. And you're going to put in a data extension path. So this is how you can create those folders. And I'm going to create it as a sendable data extension with a individual record retention period. So then in here, you can see that it comes through as the JSON file, which is the payload that the API call requires. I can go in and I'll add in my subscriber key field here. Since this is a sendable data extension, that's going to be my sending relationship. This is a text field. I can add in more fields. I can add in Boolean fields, any field that is valid in Marketing Cloud, you can add. You can change the primary key and the requirement. So I'm going to make this the primary key. And I want to make sure that, yep, okay, so that is correct. And then for my retention period, all that gets set down here. So I can add in a retention period of 6 days. And I'll save that. So then once that's created, change my customer key here. So once that gets created, I can do a builder add all. So that's going to, there we go. So that's going to go through and add the data extensions that I have configured, and then do a builder push. So again, that creates the folders and it creates the data extension. So if you would be creating 4 or 5 data extensions in the platform, that's a task in and of itself, just because of how you have to configure it. You're able to go through and configure that in a JSON file relatively easily and push them all into Marketing Cloud with just a few commands. Let me refresh this. There we go. So here's my Poland demo folder, and here's the data extension that gets created with my fields in there. So really, like I said, you can go through and you can create as many data extensions as you need to. Then they will all get created as you configure them. Data extensions are also will be part of the package and deployment as well. Currently, if you package a content builder project that has data extension references, those do get picked up and deployed with that. So they do get deployed with a content builder package file as that dependency. And that is all I have for the demo of Builder and kind of everything that it's capable of doing in its current state. One other part that I wanted to really kind of highlight is one of its newest features, which is being able to configure a Marketing Cloud connection with using authentication, so that web app configuration for your installed package. I know that's been a huge blocker for some brands and some agencies to be able to even consider using something like Builder for their clients. But now you have the ability to configure it with that web application installed package and enforce that authentication within Builder. So, which is really exciting. So that is what I have.
Yeah, so this is amazing, Tony. Thank you for showing us all how Builder works. I don't see any new questions in the chat, but maybe someone on the call would like to ask Tony a question directly. If yes, then please do speak up. I can see some hands raising. I think, Carol, you have a hand raised, right?
I was actually, I was trying to give a round of applause.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So does anyone, yes, so there's a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Will there be, yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, so that is something that I'm actively actually testing a little bit about. So I have been working on a Builder and Git workflow to essentially have a development branch of a repository point to, for example, a sandbox instance or a development business unit, and then have the main branch of that repository point toward a production instance or a production business unit, and being able to keep those tracked for both of those instances across both of those branches. It is somewhat complicated just because of the fact that you're dealing with different asset IDs for the same content. So you have to do a little bit of mapping there. But from what I've been able to test, there is a path to that. So I can't say for certain when that will be supported or fully integrated, but that is definitely on my roadmap to figure out. And being able to support that code promotion without having to do too much else with it. So yeah, you can see it useful for an individual right now, but without branching and forking, I see it less valuable to a team that does collaborative coding. So what you can do is when you take it and you push it to your GitHub repository, you can use either a public or a private repository if you're using it internally. So then what you can do is if you go on and you initiate a project for, so if you go in and you initiate this project here, where you have this local manifest file, I take that and I push that to GitHub. And it's a private internal GitHub that you have access to. You would then be able to take that repository, clone it down, and then push that, make updates and push that into Marketing Cloud with the same set of assets. So if you and I are working on a project together, we can use GitHub to be that intermediary between my work, your work, and being able to branch it in that way. It's a workflow that I've not necessarily had a chance to fully test out as I'm an individual developer. So I don't have that scenario to work with, but you can use Git to manage that collaboration and be able to branch and fork and merge things together just as you would a standard Git process. Just haven't had a chance to test that workflow out. If that's something that you and your team utilize, I would love to have that conversation and be able to get that vantage point as well. Because that's definitely an intent of using this kind of a system. Can we import content from MailChimp or any third-party content creation tool using Builder? So if you have files that you're pulling, so if you have HTML files or HTML blocks or any kind of code blocks from any system, if they are created as a text file on your local machine, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to take those and push those into Marketing Cloud. Builder doesn't necessarily manage getting them out of MailChimp or your other ESP, but if you have them set as an HTML email, for example, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to have those files and push them into Marketing Cloud from Builder. Hopefully that answers your question. The only other thing you have to worry about is any kind of ESP or third-party specific scripting or quirks that they might run into. And obviously test once it's in Marketing Cloud. But yeah, should be possible.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Do we have any more questions for Tony? I don't see anything in the chat. Okay, So I
Cool.
think, yeah, I think that's it. So thank you again, Tony, for first of all for building this amazing tool and also for presenting it to
Absolutely.
our community. So keep up the good work. And now let me just quickly share my screen for one more second. I would like to announce the lottery winners. So here are the winners of today's voucher lottery: David, Dipesh, Maciej, Karina, and Karol. I will email you either later today or tomorrow with the details of your vouchers. So be on the lookout for that email. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining the session today. Thank you for presenting, Tony. And yeah, have a great rest of the day, everyone. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for having me. Thanks, everyone.